Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. This will be a quick one, y'all. I'm a middle-aged cashier with hypoglycemia, among other hard-to-spell ailments. Don't get me wrong, I'm no withering waif, we've all got problems. On this day, this problem became, well, a problem. Nestled in the Phoenix Desert lies your Arizona hometown grocer Mash's. Since the pandemic, U-Scan has been all the rage. Literally, Mash's insists that only one live, actual, scanning, thinking cashier is scheduled. That sexy beast is me. During 40 to 50% of my shift, I'm busy, non-stop scanning and bagging. Yes, we have no baggers, to my heart's dismay. No problem, it's a job, cool beans. But when my second front-end guy, who runs the U-Scan, leaves to the back for the last half of the shift, I'm caught between ringing up customers and jumping over to an assortment of angry eyes waiting for me to scan their overrides. These overrides happen frequently. Anytime liquor is purchased, cough syrup, etc., it's all me. Things get busy. I get thirsty. I drink water. I feel a spell coming on even after water, so I know I need sugar and fast. So I bust open a Coke and guzzle like it's my job. I must have looked like a commercial for the product. The second I hit that second ounce, I hear a nasal voice. "Customer, you're disgusting. Do you have to do that here? Go do that someplace else." Then she sputtered into a curse-laden tirade that I swear involved the word donut somewhere. She also called me fat. Not cool, Brohim. I stopped, explained that I desperately need sugar for my blood sugar, while simultaneously opting to deliver some good old-fashioned malicious compliance. Me. You know what, you're right, I shouldn't be drinking soda right here. Let me go someplace else. So I did. I walked, sauntered if you will, right to the manager's office, as I left behind a parade of customers, whose anger now transformed into one super being like the mighty Morphin Power Rangers, shifting it toward the complainer. Me. I need to sit down. I haven't had a break in 6 hours and need to refuel, stat. They're out there waiting. Then I sat while he went to deal with the leftovers. I took a seat in the deli area, slowly sipping my soda, and watching my manager try to deal with what I've been dealing with my whole life. The main complainer wound up leaving, grocery-less and even angrier, flipping off no one in particular. Huzzah! I missed a lot in the moment, but evidently, many of the customers were regulars, and stood up for me in the best way, by collectively telling her where she can go and what she can do when she gets there. So, this was told to me by my dad over a drink recently. He'd gotten a little drunk and ended up admitting it to me, saying it's been too long now, and he'd paid the consequences, so there was nothing to come back to him. Uncle Mark was my favorite uncle when I was a child. He always invited me around to show me his airsoft gun collection, organized hide-and-seek parties with my friends, and even took us to the beach. He would always come with sweets for us, and acted like one of us, another child who just wanted to have fun. But then, the day I, 7 years old, was meant to be going around because we were going for a ride to this amazing place, my dad was happy and cheerful for the entire day. He was going on about how much he loved the fact his brother wanted to be in his children's life. Until he got a call. I was in my room packing my stuff when I heard the most blood-curdling scream from my dad. He was screaming and raging. I heard him rip open our front door and slam it back shut with enough force to make the picture next to it fall off the wall. I didn't see my dad for a long while after that, and he never told me why until we had this talk. But that shall be explained at the end. Mum had a lot of money saved up from a minor lottery win, so we were okay. She always smiled and said, "Daddy is just away for a little while because he was looking after me and my siblings." Whenever I asked where he was, Uncle Mark didn't come around either during this time, but we did see him in town a couple of times. Funnily enough, he ran away the moment my mum saw me waving at him. 9 months later, Dad came home, and I excitedly ran and hugged him. He hugged me right back with a good squeeze. We had a party to celebrate him coming home. We had food, cake, and all the usual stuff. I was just happy my dad was home. A week or so later, Dad sat me down with the other children and explained that Uncle Mark wouldn't be coming around anymore. When asked why, he just said Uncle Mark was a bad person, and that if he ever tried to talk to us, we were to ignore him and come find one of them. We all agreed because my dad always knew best, after all. One day, a year or so later, 9 at this point, I was coming out of school to wait for my parents to pick me up. My other siblings were either at secondary school or too young for school, so it was just me. I saw Uncle Mark standing there with a big grin. I got nervous when he came up to me, saying he was here to take me for a ride. I told him I'm not supposed to talk to him, that he's a bad person like my dad said. Uncle Mark got this scary look on his face for a second, then told me it was all good, and his parents had changed their minds and made to take my hand. That's when I saw my dad just appear. My dad punched Uncle Mark right in the face, and little old me saw blood fly as Uncle Mark went sprawling. I didn't see much after that, except Uncle Mark running away with my dad chasing him. He came back after a little while, sighed, and took me in a hug. He told my mum to take me home and that he'd see us later. I don't know why, but I knew then it would be a long time before I ever saw my dad again. It took about 2 weeks until he came back. My mum eventually admitted to us that he was in prison for protecting us, and we all guessed he'd done something to Uncle Mark. And he had. Turns out Uncle Mark liked kids, he liked them a lot, and that day I was meant to go to his house. My aunt, Uncle Mark's wife, had called my dad and told him she'd found some disturbing things under her and Mark's bed of children, and she was scared of what to do because Mark was a big man. It was later revealed he mistreated her, so she was scared to call the police on him, and my dad had gone into a rage and stormed over to his house. He'd smashed in the door to find Uncle Mark screaming at my aunt. My dad had beaten Uncle Mark within an inch of his life. Uncle Mark screaming he'd make him pay as the police had arrested my dad. While my dad was explaining why he had done it, Mark tried to get the pictures and hide them, and he managed to do so. My dad was taken to the station for assault, but made sure my other uncles and older cousins were around to protect us in case Mark came back. But oh no, Mark waited until my dad thought we were safe. And then, according to my dad, he had come to kidnap me from the school right under their noses. Who would stop him? People didn't believe my dad when he explained Mark was a predator. They thought he was just excusing himself for attacking him. After all, the police hadn't found anything, whereas my dad was the big angry guy with a few assaults under his belt already. So all they saw was my nice uncle here to pick me up. He had gotten away from my dad at the school. My dad had tripped, and it gave him the chance to run. But my dad knew where he would go. Knew Uncle Mark would run home to hide and more than likely destroy any evidence he had gotten since destroying the last lot. He also knew the police would be on his tail for the attack at the school, so he didn't have long. The difference was, though, my dad had his car while Uncle Mark was on foot, so he drove over and demanded to know if my aunt was going to lie again after what Uncle Mark had just tried to pull. At that moment, she really realized what a monster my uncle was. He was willing to do this to her nephew just for petty revenge for being called out as a predator. My dad ordered her to get all the evidence she could as he waited for Mark to appear. She came back down with pictures. He then told her to go, wait 1 hour, and then call the police. He was ending this, and as Uncle Mark appeared, my dad, who had been waiting behind the wall of his garden, slammed him through the door of his house, then proceeded to beat him up, then tie him down until the police got there. The police came towards my father right away, and my father didn't resist. When it was revealed that Uncle Mark was indeed a predator who had attempted to kidnap me, and the fact that they had to face the fact they had allowed a predator to run free, he was let go, his lawyer stating my father had gone into a protective rage and had only intended to render him harmless. Funnily enough, no one argued in defense of the predator for my dad getting the assault charges dismissed. Uncle Mark got 20 years in jail, but he didn't live to finish them. He died 15 years into it. No one in my family raised a finger for his passing. My dad said he didn't regret it, but that he wished he had done something else purely, so that he didn't put me in such danger in the first place. I told him I was forever going to be proud of him for that, and that I loved him. I was a bit shocked I wasn't told just what Uncle Mark was for so long. But my dad asked if it would have made it any better to be told as a child what he really was, or now as a man who can handle the truth. He was right. Me, as a child, would not have been able to mentally handle it. I'm barely able to handle it now. A few years ago at my place of employment, management decided to bring in a new safety glasses policy. As a member of the safety committee, I was tasked with finding a company that could supply safety glasses to fit our employees with a new criterion. They had to pass a pencil fit test. This meant a regular pencil should not be able to pass around any part of the glasses to enter the eye area. Essentially, they needed a tight fit. I called around and found a company that could provide us with a choice of 120 different models and styles. This would allow us to fit everyone, from wide faces to slim faces, hawk-shaped, big-nosed, you name it. I thought it was a done deal. I was patting myself on the back for a job well done. But of course, management had to step in and say, this doesn't work for us. Their solution: find a company that has only 6 different styles of glasses and make it work. As someone who wears prescription lenses, these new style glasses were not designed for this. They only had inserts which were clipped on inside. To make the glasses pencil fit, the frames were curved to fit your face, which meant the insert was also bent to fit the frame. Now imagine taking your glasses and bending them to sit tight to your face. See how this distorts your vision. So I reported to my boss that I could not wear the new glasses as they distorted my vision and gave me headaches. Their solution was to have me try each model of glasses one at a time and get lenses made for them to see if I could find one that would work, knowing that no matter what they did, wearing curved frames would not work. Every time I got new lenses made, I ensured they were high index, UV resistant, tinted, scratch resistant, and the best money could buy. I bought lenses for all 6 frame types at a cost of just over $7,000. At the end of this, I went to see my eye specialist, and he wrote me a letter stating that I could not wear the new style glasses as they would damage my eyes. I took this letter to work and showed it to my boss. They didn't know what to do with me. I showed up for work every day dressed and ready to work, but they never assigned me any tasks as it would be too dangerous, even though I had worn my old safety glasses for the last 25 years. Suddenly, it was too dangerous. So they had me just sitting in the lunchroom. I would play games on the computer. I was going to night school, so I completed a semester of school and basically just goofed around. One day, I was playing video games, and our number 2 boss walked in. Me, good morning, number 2 boss, frowns and walks away without saying a word. A couple of days later, our number 1 boss walked in while I was reading the newspaper. Number 1 boss, what are you doing? Me, reading the paper. Number 1 boss, why? Me, they told me it's too dangerous out there for me. The next day, I was back at work. After 10.5 weeks of sitting around, the policy was changed. Here's the kicker. I found out later that the cost of my new lenses had caused quite a stir in the finance department. They were furious about the amount spent on something that ultimately didn't work. But my boss had no choice but to approve the expenses since they had mandated the new glasses policy. The whole ordeal became a bit of a legend around the office. People started calling it the Great Glasses Debacle. Even the higher-ups had to laugh at how ridiculous the situation had become. The policy was quietly changed, and I got to go back to my regular job with my old safety glasses. One day, a coworker asked me about it. Coworker: so, how did you manage to get paid for just sitting around for weeks? Me: simple, I just followed their rules to the letter. Coworker: I wish I could pull something like that off. Me: trust me, it wasn't as fun as it sounds, but sometimes you just have to let them see the absurdity of their own decisions. In the end, the safety committee learned a valuable lesson about involving actual users in their decision-making process. And as for me, I went back to my regular work routine, grateful that common sense had finally prevailed. This happened a few years ago, right after I graduated college. I would make an 8-hour drive home a few times a year to see family, usually over the holidays. During these trips, there was only wilderness, fields, mountains, and tiny towns along the way. During one of these trips, I stopped at a gas station to get some food, and I apparently lost my debit card. Or it was stolen. It was a card I never used and looked identical to my main one, so I didn't notice it was missing until later when I got a call from my bank, and I saw my account was overdrafted. Being fresh out of college, making $12 per hour, the $400 was a huge deal. I worked at a credit card processor at the time, so I had a very unusual familiarity with how credit card transactions worked. This was a debit card, but ran as credit. I could have done a chargeback, of course, but I knew that merchants were fined $15 for each chargeback on top of the return and got a ding on their record with Visa per megacoulomb, MX. If they had too many chargebacks, they would have their processing revoked and incur heavy fines. Merchants are usually mom-and-pop shops and are usually innocent in the matter, so I decide to give them a call. Also, the charges all came from the same gas station that I lost it at, so I suspected it was an employee who stole my card, and was stupid enough to use it at work. I wanted to let the manager owners know so they could keep an eye out for unscrupulous employees. Employee theft is unfortunately common and is not brought to light until a customer brings it up. I thought I would just give them a call and ask for the refund, easy. I call, and a woman answers. I ask to speak with a manager, and she says she is the manager. I explained that I had lost my card at that location, and someone had later used my card there. I said I didn't want to accuse anyone, but I think one of her employees had the card, and she may want to investigate. I also said I'd like a return for all the purchases to save them the hassle of a chargeback. When I usually work with managers in this situation, they're very willing to help and take employee theft very seriously. Instead, I met with hostility and insults. She told me I probably deserved it for losing my card in the first place and not noticing, and I deserved this lesson. She interrupted me and told me to basically go screw myself, and none of her employees would steal. Getting a bad feeling, I ask for the number of the owner. She says there is no owner. What? By now I'm shaking in anger. So I tell her I'm calling the police and hang up. She tries to call back, and I don't answer. By now I'm angry, crying. I have a feeling I know who did it, but now I need to prove it. I had no intention of calling the cops because what cops care about some petty credit card theft? It's incredibly hard to prove, and most cops have murder and crap to worry about. Lucky for me, this is in the middle of nowhere, population 100 or something. First, I call my bank and ask if they have the record of the exact times the card was used. They gave me the times down to the minute. I then call the police and get a very friendly woman. It seems she's not busy and actually listens to my story, including the hostile manager. I asked if she's able to go look at the surveillance tapes or something. She says the store is 5 minutes away and she will stop by. I guess she felt sorry for me or was bored, but I'll take it. She says she'll give me a call if she finds anything. I eagerly awaited her call, but was not expecting much. A couple days go by, and I get a call from the nice officer lady. She says that she went by the store and reviewed the footage. At the exact time I told her, the cameras caught the hostile manager making the purchases, signing receipts for the exact same amounts with a card that looked exactly like mine. Even better, they were going to charge her with felony identity theft, since making purchases on someone's card without permission is identity theft on top of monetary theft, at least in my state. They asked if I wanted any restitution, but my bank had refunded me the stolen money, so I declined. I was absolutely not expecting a cop to go out of their way to help me, and I was definitely not expecting it to result in an arrest. I felt a sense of pride for actually sticking up for myself, and not just taking the money from my bank and letting the thief go. I'm a pretty small and non-confrontational person, but that day I felt really strong. If she'd been nice and worked with me, or even just apologized and done the returns, I would not have called the cops. Because she was so rude and unhelpful, she got a felony instead. When I was 13, I got my first job as a paperboy. Even at a young age, I was always a bit of a nightmare to manage. If there was any hint of unfair treatment, I made it my mission to know all the regulations and work strictly within them. If an employer showed no flexibility, they sure weren't getting any from me. My paper route was great. It started just around the corner from my house, and a small loop left my last delivery 3 doors down from home. There were usually no complaints about the timing. I used to show up just after 7, pack my bags, and have all the papers delivered by 7:45, even on the busiest days. One day, we got a new manager at the shop. Apparently, some people were complaining that their papers were not delivered early enough. We were told we had to be in the shop by 6:30 going forward. In the United Kingdom, there are regulations on when a child is allowed to work, and given this new change and how it was a deterrent to my life, I started to research to see if anything could be done. I found out 2 things. Firstly, minors could not work before 7 a.m., and secondly, you could not deduct money from wages for mistakes, which was happening regularly, every time there was a customer complaint. Armed with this information, I told the manager what he was proposing and how his current way of running the deliveries was illegal. He needed to come up with a better plan. I'm not sure he liked being told this by a 13-year-old, so he fired me immediately. The newsagent in question was part of a national chain, so I wrote to their head office detailing the situation and what I intended to do next. I stated that they were not following child labor laws, and that I would report them to the relevant agency. I pointed out that it wasn't a great look that when this was brought to their attention, I was fired, and nothing changed. I also said that I intended to raise a legal claim for unfair dismissal based on the nature of my firing. Additionally, I gave them notice of my intent to go to the press to see if they felt there was a story about a national brand ignoring child labor laws and dismissing someone who brought that to their attention. I asked for a response in 30 days, or I would start to make the appropriate arrangements. It took 2 weeks before I was asked to come into a meeting with my ex-branch manager and his boss. I took my dad as a witness, but he encouraged me to lead the meeting. Manager: "We've made some changes. We now expect you in at 6:45 to do the sorting before going on your deliveries at 7 o'clock. We've also given everyone a pay rise and a bonus which will be paid weekly if no mistakes are made. We'd like to offer you your job back." Me: "While the pay situation seems fair, you are still asking people to come in before 7 a.m., and this is against the law. If you don't want me to take this further, you need us to be there at 7 a.m., and you can get our bags ready for delivery, or we can be there at 7 and be out for delivery at 7:15. The choice is yours, but your interpretation of the law is wrong, and I won't back down unless changes are made." Manager's boss: "We agree to your points, and as part of offering your job back, there will be a confidentiality clause." Me: "I'm not comfortable with this. If this is to buy my silence from approaching the press, there will be a cost attached to it." In the end, I got my job back with a 20% raise for everyone working the same job and a weekly bonus on top. We had a strict 7 a.m. start time, and to top it all off, they gave me £500 to sign the confidentiality clause. From that point on, I was known as the kid who took on the company, and won. It felt good to know that standing up for myself not only got me my job back, but also improved the conditions for everyone else working there. It just goes to show that sometimes knowing your rights and not backing down can really pay off. A recent negative story reminded me of this event from about 20 years ago when I was an undergraduate student. I had a cell phone, but this was before smartphones. I was thinking about graduate school and decided to sign up for a class that helps you prep for the entrance test. Within walking distance of my college was a shopping center. The main attraction was a movie theater that the college used for classes during the day. There was a Starbucks, record store, salon, several restaurants, and other shops in this shopping center. The test prep center told us they had recently moved to the shopping center, but they didn't give us the exact suite number. One afternoon, I decided to head to the shopping center to sign up for the class. I expected to see at least a sign indicating where the test prep place was located. However, I couldn't find it. I checked the directory, but there was nothing. I walked all over the vicinity, but still nothing. I tried calling the number I had, but it was disconnected since it was for their old location. Frustrated, I asked a few restaurants if they knew where the place was, but they had no clue. I wandered around for about 20 minutes, getting increasingly annoyed. Then I noticed an office related to the college. I thought maybe I wasn't the only student who had wandered around, and they might know. I walked in, and a receptionist, who I'll call Virginia, she had a pack of Virginia Slims cigarettes in front of her, greeted me. Hi, I'm trying to find the test prep office that recently moved here, but I can't locate it. Do you know where it might be? Virginia. I'm not sure, but I'll gladly help you. Let's see if we can find it. She pulled out the directory, but there was no mention of the test prep office. Then, she decided to call the property manager. Virginia. Hi, this is Virginia from the college office. We have a student here looking for the new test prep center that recently moved in. Do you know where it is? Property manager. Yes, they just moved in a week ago. It's located between the pool hall and the Mexican restaurant. Virginia. Got it, thank you. Virginia got off the phone and turned to me with a smile. Virginia. The office is just a few doors down from here. It's between the pool hall and the Mexican restaurant. You should be able to find it now. Me. Thank you so much, Virginia. I really appreciate your help. Virginia. No problem at all. Good luck with your test prep. I thanked her profusely and made my way to the location. I finally found the office with a handwritten sign on the door. I walked in and signed up for the classes. A few weeks later, I noticed they had painted large bright signs in their windows, making it much easier to find. Virginia, wherever you are, thank you for going out of your way to help me, even though you didn't have to. Your kindness made a big difference during a frustrating moment. This happened only 2 weeks ago, and I still can't believe it actually happened. For some background, I'm a DJ for a local nightclub in the southern region of Brisbane, Australia. Before I became a DJ, I was a Domino's delivery boy for 3 years and met the worst entitled Karen ever. I posted that story earlier, so go check it out for context. Currently, I DJ at a small nightclub just outside the South Brisbane area. Due to COVID, I was unemployed for a year, so getting my job back was a big stress reliever. There I was, mixing music for the drunk, fun-loving people. There was dancing, drinking, friends, enjoying each other's company, and the night was going great. Unfortunately, this wouldn't last, as you'll soon find out. As I was mixing and giving my performance, I noticed a large woman in her late 30s to early 40s. I wasn't sure where I had seen her before, but then she turned around, revealing her face, and oh my God, it was the Karen who insulted me for being on the autism spectrum 2 years ago. Once I saw her, I considered seeking revenge but decided against it. I figured I wouldn't ruin the crowd's fun for the sake of my own selfish goals, so I continued mixing. An hour or two passed, and the night was going great. People were dancing and having fun, but then I noticed something in the corner of the club. For context, there is a bouncer named Josh at the nightclub. He looks tough and can be pretty scary. He's 6'4", Aboriginal, and built like a tank, but in reality, the man is kind and soft. I call him a stale marshmallow, because he's hard and tough on the outside but soft and sweet on the inside. He took a liking to this nickname, and now everyone calls him Stale Marshmallow. Josh was standing in the corner, visibly uncomfortable, as Karen, the same Karen I spotted earlier, was attempting to grope and kiss him. Josh is a husband and father of 4 and has traditional beliefs in marriage. He believes a man should always be faithful and never engage in anything sexual with a woman except his wife. We all respect him for that. You can imagine how he felt about Karen attempting to grind and grope him. Josh is not very confrontational towards women in the club and often has other bouncers remove them. Unfortunately, no other bouncer noticed what was happening, so naturally, I was his only hope. Club policy states that the DJ can stop the music if he sees a situation where someone could be hurt, or if any misconduct is happening. Post-COVID, I did this twice, once to stop a drug deal and another to call out a guy who was harassing a girl. I stopped the music, and everyone was disappointed, naturally. I grabbed the mic and said, "Excuse me, lady, would you kindly not grope the club's stale marshmallow in the corner over there?" When Karen realized I was talking to her, she screamed, "Get lost, jerk!" The crowd responded with threats, curse words, and verbal abuse, which got her to stop. Josh later came up to me and thanked me. Now you might think the story is over, but let's be honest, I wouldn't be posting this story if that was it. About an hour went by, and everything was roughly back to normal. As I was mixing, however, I noticed Karen standing in the crowd, not dancing, just standing with a glass of some alcoholic beverage, staring at me. Next thing I knew, she threw her glass directly at me, hitting me in the eye. Don't worry, my eye is fine. Part of my stage performance is wearing LED goggles and an LED face mask, and the goggles saved my eye, but it still hurt like a son of a gun. I immediately stopped the music, and everyone turned to me. Josh and two other co-workers, Rodney and Tom, rushed up to help me. Tom is also one of our bouncers and the owner's son-in-law. Luckily, he saw the glass hit me and screamed, "WHO the heck did that?" The room went quiet, and people started looking around. Josh and Rodney helped me up, and I told Tom to check the CCTV and call the police. He asked if I saw who did it, and I confirmed I did. Rodney, one of our bartenders, ran to get a first aid kit as I was bleeding. Apparently, the glass smashed when it hit my goggles and cut me on the forehead. Josh eventually had the exit closed so no one could leave, but I saw an opportunity. I got up, much to Rodney's dismay, grabbed the mic and said, "Now who in their right mind would throw a glass at a DJ? Well, actually, I saw exactly who did it." Everyone looked up at me, and some guys cheered me on. I scanned the room for Karen, and once I spotted her, I pointed at her and said, "Her actually. She was the one who threw it at me. You know, this isn't the first time we met. I used to work at a Domino's Pizza, and this one time I had to deliver a pizza to a woman who abused me for having Asperger's syndrome and being autistic." The room turned to her and cussed her out for that. At first, she had a look of confusion. I remember my first words to her. I said, "Sorry for not looking directly at you. I have Asperger's syndrome, you know," a fairly polite and nice way. Her face went pale white as she finally remembered me. "You know, Karen, I don't think you should respond by insulting someone with a disability." I never got to say it, but screw you. I then turned around and sat back next to Rodney. The room ultimately turned on her, and she tried to bolt out the door, but Josh and another bouncer stopped her. The police eventually turned up, reviewed the CCTV footage, and confirmed she was the culprit. I later pressed charges on her, and have a court date next week. She is charged with aggravated assault, damage to private property, and attempted manslaughter. The CCTV footage revealed something else Karen did. She somehow managed to sneak backstage and pour alcohol all over a power plug that led to the speakers and my gear, which could have started an electrical fire and killed me. We don't know how she managed to do it, but she did, and the owner is also suing her for what happened. Oh, but it doesn't end there. Turns out there was someone in her family at the nightclub who recorded me calling her out. She reached out to me and told me two very interesting facts. First, she showed the recording to her entire family, and almost everyone in her family is cutting contact with her. Second, she is a married woman with an 18-year-old daughter, and she was at the nightclub with her husband's co-worker. It turns out she had been cheating on her husband with multiple men. Now she is facing a hefty divorce and 2 lawsuits. I guess it's true what they say, karma's a witch. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.